If you're like me, you're so sick of the politics.
I can't take it anymore.
I am so sick of the politics. I just want things to go back to some semblance of normal. But the further down the road we get, the more I feel like that's not gonna happen. And I'm so disappointed in the Republicans right now. I am so disappointed, but I'm also a little bit proud of both sides for getting this stopped. I'm talking about the bill in the budget that was just proposed to sell off public land. Take it from Idaho and from the surrounding states and sell it and use the money for whatever they want. It's as close as you can get to stealing from taxpayers. Now, I try to stay pretty moderate on my channel. I try to not get worked up, but this really got me worked up. And I'm super mad.
George is getting upset.
Because I had a script all written out for when they were gonna sell it, and then it just got announced that they're not gonna sell it. And so I was like, do I make this video? Do I not make this video? My wife says, you gotta make this video because you're super passionate about this and it's something worth being passionate about. So let me just go over, here's what we're gonna cover today. We're gonna talk about what was in that bill, what they were gonna do with Idaho's public land, and why this is it's a really bad sign. It's really telling of the precedent that they're trying to set and the future that they're trying to make for Idaho and the surrounding other states on the west side that have a lot of federal land. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about why it's such a big deal, what public land actually is for the people who live around it and who use it, how important it is to the state of Idaho. We're gonna talk about why it would be so devastating to lose it. And then we're gonna talk about what we can do to hopefully prolong it. It's going to happen. I want you to know it's gonna eventually happen. The federal land will eventually get sold off and privatized because that's what they've done. You can look on the East Coast, even in places like Texas and the Midwest, they do this. They sell off federally owned land, let's get back to basics. Federal, public, we bought it with our tax dollars. They used our money to pay for this land. And now they're just like, oh, well, we're going to sell it and we're gonna take that money and we're gonna do whatever we want. All right, let's just dive in. Welcome to another episode of Living Life on North Idaho, Living Life in North Idaho. My name is Trent, and on this channel, we talk about what it's like living, eating, working, playing, and buying real estate here in Idaho. So if that's of interest to you, tap the subscribe button. I shouldn't have to say this anymore, but there's new people to the channel, always new people coming. And also, if you are serious about getting moved to Idaho, just reach out at the phone number or email address listed below, day, nights, weekends. We'd love to help you. Now, let's talk about what was in this bill. This is so ridiculous. I cannot believe it. Now, they were proposing selling up to 3.3 million acres. Now, it was going to be spread across 11 states, so who knows how much of Idaho's public land would have gotten sold off, but this was just going to be the start. So 3.2 million acres was going to get sold off at discount to supposedly help with getting cheaper homes, right? Lowering the cost of homes, expanding areas that can be built on. It all sounded great, but it's hogwash. Really what was gonna happen is they were gonna sell this at discount, and normally the money that is brought in from the sale of federally owned land goes into a special fund that can only be used towards managing federally owned land or providing more access for the public to be able to use that land. No, not this time. The Republicans wanted to take this money and put it in the general fund to help with the budget deficit on this new bill. And a lot of this budget is, from what I'm told, I haven't read the whole thing, but I guess there's a ton of corporate tax breaks and tax breaks for super wealthy people. Now, how much would this have provided for the annual budget of $6.6 trillion? This would have provided 0.147% to sell 3.3 million acres of our land. 0.147. That is the equivalent of selling your family farm to pay for a month of Netflix. And unfortunately, that's where we're at because the federal budget is so bloated. I mean, I trust Elon. He has no reason to lie about this. It is pork-filled, it is bloated, and it is corrupt. And so they're wanting to sell our land, our birthright, to be able to pay for their stuff. I find this to be unacceptable.
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 Again, normally I take a pretty moderate approach to this stuff, Not when it comes to public land. Given the fact that I was just out on public land riding my dirt bike, totally ate it, had a horrible day, but it was still wonderful because I'm out on the land that my taxpayers paid for. Or my tax dollars, my taxpayers. All of us, our taxpayers, we, the taxpayer, paid for. So this is really, really ridiculous. I will say, if you've been following this or just kind of seen snippets, there was a lot of media hype around this. They had maps showing hundreds of millions of acres that said for sale. That's not true. That was the land that was eligible for sale, but only some of it was actually going to get sold. The problem is that you have no idea which land was going to get sold. It could have been stuff that had public access that people really liked. It could be property and land that goes to helping small businesses that utilize that public land. For instance, Gold Creek Lodge up here in Athol, their whole business is based on being able to utilize that public land. They do dirt bike rentals, and my son and I have gone up there and done it. It's amazing. It's really awesome. Wish they paid me to promote them, but I like them enough that I'm going to do it anyway. So that's what was going on. That's what's happening. Now, let's talk about what public land actually is. Because for those people who live on the East Coast or don't utilize public land, they might be thinking, okay, well, it's just a bunch of wilderness, right? It's just trees and mountains and things. Yes and no. It is the thin brown and green line between the rat race of society and our birthright to freedom, nature. Anytime I'm feeling fed up with society, instead of going and doing something stupid, I get to go out in the woods and remember that there's more to this life than bills and subscriptions and taxes, that I can be free. Yes, it is a little bit dangerous to go out there because there's wild animals, but it reminds me how alive I am. For other people, this is their connection to nature, that their tiny little yard or living in an apartment, going to a park with grass that's fed fertilizer and there's pesticides and there's people all over the place and noise, it's not the same. You want to know why people in New York are so crazy, or New Jersey, or these packed cities? It's because they live in a concrete jungle and they don't have connection to nature. I promise you, I have been someone who's had to figure out their mental health journey, and nature is a very big component of that. For some people, going out into nature, into these public lands, it's their ability to connect with their creator that they're not able to due to maybe trauma or whatever, something's happened to them. Going to church just doesn't do it for them. They need to go be out in nature. In fact, you talk to some doctors and people who are dealing with autoimmune disorders and different diseases, they recommend go get in nature. Go and ground yourself. Go be in the trees and amongst the birds and the mountains. It's good for you. And so this isn't just some extra land. This is the birthright of every human being to go and experience nature. And we can't just lose that. We can't just let the federal government go, okay, well, it's ours because, we're in control and we're going to sell it off and just use the money for more missiles or bombs or whatever they're going to use it for. That's not acceptable. We can't let them do this. Now, I don't want to get too personal, but I had a pretty sucky childhood growing up. But I will tell you some of my best memories were going out onto Idaho's public land and going and having an adventure. My dad could not be in a bad mood when we got up into those mountains and into those trees. And I could tell that the burden of society, of having to make money and pay bills, really wore on him. Some men handle it better than others, but being able to go up into those mountains and into the trees, I could tell really helped him, and it made me feel very connected to nature. And I promise you, if you don't live near public land, if you move over here, this is gonna be a main attraction. Because going to places like Silverwood is fun, but when you realize, hey, this is costing me hundreds of dollars to take my family here, and I have to wait in line, and I'm surrounded by people and smelly things, you're gonna wanna be out in nature, and that's what makes Idaho so fantastic. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what happens if we lose this public land. Well, first of all, tourism is gonna go way down because that's what brings a lot of people here, is to be able to go out onto these trails, go mountain biking, go pick huckleberries, go rent a side-by-side and cruise up the logging roads. So we're gonna get hurt that way. The price of land will eventually skyrocket because once it's all privatized, it becomes much more valuable, which is great for the investors, bad for all the Idahoans that can't afford it. The hunting and fishing and hiking and recreational activities, those are all gonna get cut way down because you're gonna be designated to specific areas. And I'll tell you, people can be great. It's wonderful for community, but sometimes it can turn toxic. And some people just need to get away from other people. And so to remove that, you're just setting yourself up for a less healthy society. And a problem that a lot of people don't think about is that mining and logging is going to lose the oversight that it has now. A lot of that stuff up here that takes place, it's done through a government lease. And so there's a lot of oversight that takes place to make sure that the waterways aren't being poisoned, that the animal species are not being taken out, and that things are done properly. And trust me, when things aren't done properly, it causes massive problems. Just look up the Superfund site in the Silver Valley. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And so if all of the land gets sold off and privatized, then companies are gonna have less oversight and it's gonna cause a lot of problems. Overall, Idaho will just no longer be Idaho without its public land. And I know that this was just a small step that the federal government was trying to take in selling 3.3 or 3.2 million acres across 11 states. But if we allow them to do this, you know how the federal government works. They take an inch so that way they know that they can take a mile. Because eventually people are not gonna have the political will, they're not gonna have the fight in them, they're gonna be distracted. And if you're hungry and you're having trouble making money, who cares about public land? And I feel like that's the direction that we could be going in, and I really wanna make sure that people understand this is a fight worth having. So with that said, how do we fight back? Well, first of all, you gotta support the politicians that are actually fighting to stop this. Senators like Crapo and Risch, they actually oppose the bill, which is really awesome. I think kudos to them. I don't love everything that they do, but they did good on this. You wanna support nonprofits that are actually putting effort and lobbying to make sure that this does not happen. And you can support them through donating your time or donating your money or just spreading the word. And I'll have a list of those nonprofits that I think are doing the best job in the description if you want to check them out and you have the ability to help them fight this fight. It's worth having that fight. But the most important thing you can do is get out into the wilderness. Go use this public land. Take your kids. Go hang out on the public land. If they have a connection to the public land, then they'll care about it and they'll fight for it for their kids. And if they do the same thing, then their kids will fight for it and so on. This will eventually happen. If you look at Texas, Texas used to be mostly federal land. Less than 1.5% is federally owned, which means less than 1.5% is public access. Now there's designated areas, there are parks, there's monuments, but again, these are all just sort of corrals, right? It's a pasture to allow humans to go out and explore with the other humans. It's just not the same thing. You're never gonna go out and just be completely lost when all of that land is privatized. And so we can prolong this though, as long as we're aware and as long as we have the fight in us to go, no, we're not doing this. We're not selling this. You're definitely not selling it so you can use the money for whatever you want in your budget, for your tax breaks for the wealthy and the corporations. Then we can slow this down significantly. But it is important to operate in reality. If you know that the federal government does own this and they have the ability to do this, at least go to public town hall meetings for development and growth and look at the areas that they're considering selling off or letting go to develop. And that way you can have your areas where you go, you know what, that part's not very important. There's not really any trails. Nobody really hangs out there. Let's sell that off. So then you have your non-negotiable areas where you go, no, we're never gonna sell this. That's never gonna happen because this is the part, these are the parks that we love going to. This is where families have memories and have connection to. Let's never sell that, but at least be willing to compromise. I don't love that idea. I wish we didn't have to compromise with our own government. You would hope that they would, stand for what we want, but we're not there anymore. We're in a place right now, and this is not a left or right issue. This is just an issue of government, of the power that the government eventually has because of time and generational loss of freedom. We don't even understand nowadays what true freedom was compared to after the Revolutionary War. I mean, it's crazy. Some people think that more laws equals more freedom somehow, and no, not really. Anyway, I know this is kind of not here nor there about moving to Idaho or living in Idaho, but it is. If you move to Idaho, this is going to be a super important issue to you. I hope, anyway. It's a very, very important issue for me, my friends, and my neighbors. And luckily, they were stopped this time. But this is just the beginning. They're going to try it again. We need to be aware of this. We need to support those who are in the fight. And so that way we can keep Idaho the wonderful Idaho that it is today. So if you are serious, though, about moving here and you need someone with a lot of fight in them to get you that house that you want, me and my team, we've got that fight. So reach out, give us a call, phone, email, or text, doesn't matter. There are more videos. There's quite a few more videos about what it's like living here, more on topic. So check those out. And thank you for watching. I'm going to go.